This is probably the most stupid thing I've seen online all year, and it came as a surprise when I found out it was said by two of Marvel's most prominent directors. The Russo brothers, who are the directors of Infinity War, apparently think their audience have, and I'm not joking about this, collective ADHD. Yes, you heard that right. And that's apparently why their movies are starting to flop, not the other million actual reasons. Anyway, we're going to be looking at that today, so buckle up because it's going to be fun. Hello everyone, it's King Josh here. I just want to make this brief opportunity to say a huge thank you to everyone who has supported this channel in one way or another, either by liking my videos, subscribing, leaving a comment, or even just watching them, to be honest. It really means a lot and it shows me that you guys want me to keep making videos. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm also going to work on making my videos better with each upload, so there's that. Once again, thank you. I'm really grateful for the support, like you guys have no idea. In any case, before I cringe myself and you guys to death, let's get back to the video. So I came across an article by GamesRadar a few days ago, and in that article, the Russo brothers answered a few questions by GamesRadar at the Sands International Film Festival at St. Andrews. Now, it's no surprise that the MCU didn't have the best run last year, with two of their biggest releases missing the mark. And we can't forget the overhyped Secret Invasion show that was just slammed after its release and quickly became one of Marvel's worst projects yet. And obviously there are a number of reasons why there's this gradual but steep deterioration coming from the cinematic juggernaut. And one of them is this buzzword that's becoming increasingly popular among audiences and critics alike, and that is the superhero fatigue. This so-called superhero fatigue is what so many people believe is causing the decline of Marvel Studios. Now, while I don't believe this, and we'll get into why in a bit, the Russo brothers have something else to say entirely, and let's just say their opinions did not sit right with me. Per the article, Joe Russo thinks that one major reason this is happening is because of audience changes. Joe Russo went on to say, and I quote, "I think it's a reflection of the current state of everything. It's difficult right now. It's an interesting time. I think we're in a transitional period and people don't know quite yet how they're going to receive stories moving forward, or what kinds of stories they're going to want." Now, this particular statement does have some merit. I mean, the way we consume media has changed a lot within the past decade. It's even statistically backed, but I'm guessing you're probably confused by the second part of that statement. What does he mean by people don't know quite yet how they're going to receive stories moving forward, or what kinds of stories they're going to want? That literally makes no sense. He basically just said people don't know what they want to watch. And I think you can agree with me that that is not true and it's just BS. But he went further and there's a big generational divide about how you consume media. There's a generation that's used to appointment viewing and going to a theater on a certain date to see something, but it's aging out. Meanwhile, the new generation are, I want it now, I want to process it now, then moving on to the next thing, which they processed whilst doing two other things at the same time. You know, it's a very different moment in time than it's ever been. I think we can all see where this is going. First of all, how on earth is this about a generational divide, especially in the case of Marvel? Marvel's range of viewers by age is extensive, with some of their viewers even in their 70s. So how can this be about generational divide when a large chunk of your audience are actually adults? And old adults. It doesn't make sense. And from what we just read, he's also implying that people don't plan what they want to watch anymore, and they don't outright go to theaters anymore. I mean, that's obviously not true because all the blockbusters of last year say otherwise. But hey, let's just ignore them. Oh, and let's not exclude the fact that he's also shitting on Gen Z, but we'll get to that in a bit. Reading on, he added, and so I think everyone, including Marvel, is experiencing the same thing. This transition, and I think that really is probably what's at play more than anything else. No, Joe Russo, it's not that. Your movies are just shit nowadays. Both critics and audiences alike have testified to the gradual decline in the quality of Marvel movies and TV shows, from the writing to the visual effects and even acting. If you try to compare movies pre-Endgame like Black Panther to the Marvels, you'd understand pretty quickly what I'm talking about. And even Bob Iger himself has admitted that there is a creative strain on Marvel movies due to the endless number of media that Kevin Feige has to oversee. Even Bob Iger, aka CEO of Marvel, admits that there's way too much content and not enough story. So saying your movies aren't doing as well because there's a generational divide seems a bit far-fetched. Now, while Joe Russo has been jitting throughout this interview so far, he hasn't even said anything that crazy yet. That part's coming up now. Continuing, Russo said, "We have never collectively, globally processed our conversations so intimately and quickly as we do now. I think that creates problems where we overprocess and don't care about context anymore. I'm going to take a quick pause and say he has a point here. He's actually right. As I've said in one of my previous videos, there's this global opinion bias on a scale which it has never been before. And what I mean by that is that people nowadays think really highly of what others think rather than forming their own opinions about something. I made a whole video about it, you can watch it later, it's going to be somewhere on the screen. Anyway, this is affecting the way movies are perceived, but I don't think that's a major problem in and of itself. It's been prevalent before, it's just more amplified nowadays. So if a movie's bad, it's way more likely to perform badly and vice versa if it's good. So on the above statement, Russo has a point. However, he stops making any sense very quickly. He continued saying, "We communicate through memes and headlines, with nobody reading past 2 sentences, so everything's 100 characters or less, or 10-second videos on social media you swipe through." I think that the 2-hour format, the structure that goes into making a movie, it's over a century old now, and everything always transitions. So there's something happening again, and that form is repetitive. But it's hard to reinvent that form, and I think this next generation is looking for ways to tell their own stories that service their own sort of collective ADHD. Wow, isn't that the word to be thrown around? He really just concluded that Marvel's audience has a medical illness that affects their attention, their ability to sit still, and self-control. Interesting. Well, if we're going to blame a movie's poor performance on generational divide, TikTok, and collective ADHD, instead of, I don't know, the movie not being so great in the first place, then you really need to reconsider whether you're going to be doing interviews at all at this point. And let me be clear about this. I don't have anything against the Russo brothers, obviously. I can't believe I even have to say it, but it is what it is. I don't have any problem with them, they're awesome dudes. I mean, they directed one of my best movies of the past decade. But blaming an entire generation for the failure of a movie? I mean, how can they imply that the 2-hour format for making a movie is becoming obsolete? That is ridiculous. If anything, movies are only becoming even longer nowadays. I can't recall anyone complaining about the runtime of a good movie. I mean, Oppenheimer was 3 hours long, and it was a blockbuster. Barbie was basically 2 hours long, and if we're talking about lengthy, there's nothing longer than Avatar: Way of Water. And we know how well that one did. So I don't think it's about runtimes, and I don't think people don't know what they want to watch, obviously. Part of the article, the Russo brothers also don't believe the whole superhero fatigue trend. They believe it's fatigue in general. They said, and I read, "The superhero fatigue question was around long before the work we were doing. So it's sort of a complaint that's always been there. Like we always used to cite this back in our early days with superhero work. People used to complain about westerns in the same way, but they lasted for decades and decades and decades. They were continually reinvented and brought to new heights as they went on. I really don't understand why Joe is comparing the superhero genre to westerns. As a matter of fact, they couldn't be any more different from each other. And westerns actually did go out of fashion because of a generational divide. This is a case where it actually happened, so I don't get his angle here, but let's just pretend like we do and roll with it. Anyway, I may not be a fan of westerns, and frankly a lot of people I know, but it doesn't mean the genre lost its popularity because of a fatigue. It just means the audience evolved and the genre had to evolve with them. And just as Joe rightly said, the genre is still kicking. I mean, there have been a few western hits within the past decade like Django Unchained and Rango. So it was never about people being tired of westerns, it was about the audience changing. That is definitely not the case with Marvel. As I've said before, they have an audience in basically every age group, so... And you know it's all funny because Marvel has popularly been regarded as the fast food of cinema, with their flashy visuals and whatnot. But when it's all said and done, it really doesn't matter because what makes a good movie is simply whether the audience like it or not. And when you've set a standard of quality for all your movies, you have to live by it. Forget generational divide or social media or whether or not the audience taste is changing. Because at the end of the day, none of it matters. What makes a movie successful is if it's a stellar movie, or at the very least, that's where it starts. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. It really helps the channel a great deal. Plus, you get to hear me rant about more stuff. It's a win-win, so go ahead and do it. I'll wait. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.